Heartbreak in Rabat. Our Super Eagles went into the Lions' den with a perfect record. We are living with our head held high and our hearts heavy. From the absolute disgrace of the officiating to the gaping hole left by Ndidi. From Eric Chelle tactical handbrake to a lottery of penalty. We are breaking down 5 things we learned from the Nigerian 2, Morocco 4. But before we dive into this depressing match review, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. But if you have been following me for a while, you know the rules. If your boy get to that 10k subscriber mark, let's dive into it. And honestly, I don't know where to start. We walk into that stadium in Rabat, feeling like giants. 5 games, 5 wins, 14 goals. We are the highest scoring team in the tournament. We weren't just playing, we were dominating. But last night at Prince Monelu Stadium, it felt like something we knew about our Super Eagles just vanished. We saw a team that usually fly high suddenly pull back. We saw questionable call from the officials that broke our rhythm. And let's be real, we felt the crushing weight of playing against an entire nation. It wasn't just 11 men on the pitch, it was us against the world. To go from being the most dangerous attack in Africa to losing on penalty without scoring a single goal in 120 minutes. It hurts. It feels like a systematic failure. We traded our identity for caution. It cost us the dream of our first star. And honestly, I've had few hours to process this, and I've narrowed it down. We need to talk about why our journey to the title was derailed. These are the 5 things we learned from a night that will haunt us for a long time. Starting with the first and obvious thing, the officiating. This is the part that makes my blood boil, and I know I'm not alone. If there's one thing we learned from that night in Rabat, is that the game isn't always won or lost just by the players on the pitch. Sometimes we are fighting a system that feels weak from the moment the referee was announced. But now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the officiating. When we saw Daniel Laryea from Ghana taking the whistle, every single one of us in Nigeria felt that collective pit in our stomach. You don't put a referee from a rival nation in charge of a game this big, especially when we are playing against the host nation in North America. It felt like a setup before the first whistle even blew. And then the 33rd minute happened, and I just keep replaying it in my head. Kevin Bassey, our rock, the man holding our entire defense line together, gets booked for a foul on Brahim Diaz. We all saw the replay. Diaz was the one pulling Bassey's shirt, and it was clear as day. Yet we were the ones penalized. That one whistle didn't just hurt us in moments, it effectively ended his tournament. Can you imagine the psychological weight on him, knowing he will miss the final if we get there? It forced him to play the next 87th minute with a hand behind his back, scared to go into tackle because he didn't want to leave us down with 10 men. But look at the heart on Bassey. Even with that shadow hanging over him, he was easily the best player on the pitch. He finished with an 8.1 rating, 17 defensive contribution, 1 tackle, 3 interception, 10 clearance, 1 shot block, 8 recoveries, 6 ground duel won, 2 aerial duel wins, and most importantly, 0 time dribbled past. Despite the bias, he stood tall for us. But the rest of the officiating was abysmal at best. Every time we tried to break away, the whistle blew. Every time there was a 50-50 call, it went to Morocco. We saw it, and the world saw it. Even legends like Asset Oshoala warned us that this is what happens when you play a host nation. They don't just use the crowd, they use the host aura to influence the VAR room. We sat there watching VAR scrutinize every little thing Morocco asked for, while our appeal was met with total silence. It's hard enough to play 11 men and 45,000 fans, but when you have to play the officials too, it's an uphill battle we shouldn't have to fight. For us to ever win another title on North African soil, we have to stop being gentlemen about this. We need to demand neutral, maybe even an intercontinental referee for matches of this magnitude. We can't keep letting our dream be whistled away. But that brings me to the second thing we learned, the impact of Ndidi's absence. This one is a hard pill to swallow because it's a lesson we all feared from the moment the whistle of the quarterfinal blew. We learned as great as our squad is, there is a Wilfred Ndidi size hole in this team that we haven't just figured out how to fill. Losing our captain and our midfield anchor to suspension was quite frankly catastrophic. Ndidi is the engine, he's the shield, he's the reason we had 5 wins from 5 games, and why our defensive looked impenetrable. When he was ruled out, the foundation of this Super Eagles team didn't just crack. It folded. Eric Chelle went with Rabat and look on paper, it makes sense. But North African football is a different beast. Morocco high intensity football under Wallahi Regragui was designed to exploit exactly what we lacked. Veteran composure in the pivot. The start for Yedika tells a painful story for a young player left out on Ireland. A 6.3 rating, 88% pass accuracy, 0 key passes, 0 accurate shots. Because Yedika was being swamped, Frank Oyeka had to abandon his natural game. Instead of being the box-to-box engine we love, Frank Oyeka had to play deep just to survive. He fought like a lion. He finished with a 7.0 rating, 81% accurate passes, 6 defensive contribution, 3 interception, 1 shot block, 4 recoveries, 5 ground duel won, 1 area duel won. But by pulling him back, we lost our connection to the attack. And this is where it hit us. Look at the drop off in our dominance. 51% ball possession, 0.05 xg, 2 shots, 1 on target in 120 minutes. This is a team that scored 14 goals in 5 games. Without Ndidi to break the first line of Moroccan press, we resorted to what I hate seeing: hopeful long balls. We are just sweeping it towards Osimhen, praying for a miracle. But Asgard and Siasi were just eating those up all night. It also broke Iwobi's heart. Alex Iwobi had to drop so deep just to get the ball that he was basically a top centre back at times. He finished with a 7.0 rating, 1 key pass, 81% pass accuracy, 90 touches. But because he was so far from the goal, Lookman and Osimhen were starved. They were stranded on an island in Rabat. The lesson for us is clear: we cannot be a one-man system. For Nigeria to be true king of Africa again, we need a deeper and more versatile midfield chart. We can't let the absence of one man turn our Super Eagles into a team that can't even register an expected goal. But moving on to the third thing we learned: Eric Chelle tactical handbrake. This one gets to me because it felt like we didn't just lose, we surrendered our identity. If there is a lesson that is going to keep Nigerians awake at night, it's the way Eric Chelle put the handbrake on the most dangerous attack in Africa. Honestly, I still can't wrap my head around it. How do we go from being the highest scoring team in the tournament to a team that is scared of crossing the halfway line? Before the game, Eric Chelle told the world the boys were fatigued and that we might let Morocco have the ball. But what he actually did was pack a bus that didn't have any wheels. We played a low block chess match against a team that was already nervous of our pace, and in doing so, we gave them all the confidence in the world. We traded our flair for shield, and it paralyzed us. The only reason this didn't end in 90 minutes was because of sheer hearts of players like Bruno Emechi. Let's look at what my boy did against stars like Brahim Diaz and Akraf Hakimi. A 7.2 rating, 15 defensive contribution, 6 successful tackle, 3 interception, 4 clearance, 4 recoveries, 13 ground duel won, 1 area duel won. But because we are so focused on defending, we set a record that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. Nigeria only recorded 2 shots in the entire match. That's the lowest total in our AFCON history since the record began. But wait, it gets worse. Our last shot of this match was in the 51st minute. Think about that. For over 70 minutes of high-stake football, including extra time, we didn't even bother Morocco's keeper. Not even once. We have the African Footballer of the Year up front. We have the best providers in the game. And yet we didn't give them a single chance to do what they do best. The plan was supposedly to hold them in the first half and play a game in the second half. But that was a fairy tale. By the time the second half rolled around, the physical toll of chasing shadow in front of 50,000 screaming Moroccans had completely drained our boys. We were exhausted before the transition even started. It felt like we lacked the confidence to go out there and outplay them. We beat Algeria 2-0 playing our way. So why did we change for Morocco? This tactical overcaution didn't just frustrate Nigerians. It felt like a betray of the Super Eagles DNA. We are at our best when we fly, not when we hide. And that brings me to the fourth thing we learned: the substitution enigma. The way we handled the final minutes of the game is what I call the substitution enigma. And honestly, it felt like we are playing Russian roulette with our destiny. When the clock hits the 118th minute, we saw something that left all of us scratching our head. Eric Chelle took out Victor Osimhen, the man who scares every defender in Africa, brought on Paul Onacho. Now we know Paul Onuachu is a big body and a penalty specialist. But what message did that send to Moroccans? He told them we have officially given up on trying to win the game. It signaled that we were no longer a threat. We took out the soul of our attack right when the psychological pressure was at its peak. But the real outbreak came a minute later. In the 119th minute, Samuel Chukwueze comes on for Frank Oyeka. And I have to ask, how do you expect a player to come off the bench, stone cold without even breaking a sweat, and step up to take one of the most important penalties in our history? The shootouts revealed a massive flaw in how we organize our hierarchy. We had Chukwueze, who was mentally cold because he hasn't touched the ball, and we had Bruno, who was physically and emotionally drained after putting 120 minutes masterclass defending against Brahim Diaz and Hakimi. Let's look at how that went down for us. Paul Onuachu came on in the 180 minutes and scored. The gamble worked for him, but at what cost to our momentum? Samuel Chukwueze came on in 119 minutes and missed. His shot was saved. We threw him into the deep end without a life jacket. Faisal Adele Bashuru came on earlier at 99 minutes and looked settled. He scored. Bruno Emechi, our warrior from the start. He looked exhausted and he missed. We are up against Yassam Bono, a man who lives for these high pressure moments. He didn't just save those penalties, he read the room. He saw the hesitation in our players. We learned the hard way that penalty isn't just about technical skill, it's about psychological momentum. By making those frantic last-minute changes, we disrupted our own rhythm. We handed the advantage to Morocco before the first kick was even taken. It's been since 2013 that we last tested continental grooving, and it's decisions like this, late game miscalculation, that keeps pushing that dream further away from us. We have to be smarter. We have to trust the players who are ready in the battle. And that brings me to the last and final thing with it, the silver lining. And look, honestly, I know we all are hurting. I know the pain of watching that trophy slip through our finger is still fresh. But if there's one thing I want us to take away from this whole journey, is that this team is finally whole again. After everything we have been through, the most important lesson is that the Super Eagles have found their soul again. But look at what Alex Iwobi told us. This isn't just a squad anymore, it's brotherhood, a family. When you watch them suffer for 120 minutes in that pressure cooker of a stadium, we saw a level of commitment that we haven't seen in a long time. They fought for every inch of the grass, for every Nigerian back home, and they did it in a hostile environment where everyone wanted them to fail. The resilience didn't just come from nowhere. It was forged into that unsolved pain of missing the 2026 World Cup. We used that heartbreak as a push factor, and it showed. We walked into the home of a World Cup semi-finalist and we didn't blink. Even in a game where the tactics felt like a handbrake, the officiating felt like a robbery, our boys stood like a wall. Let's talk about the defensive foundation, because honestly, it's elite. Kevin Bassey was superb, despite the yellow card hanging over his head. And then there's Stanley Wabale. My God, he finished with a 9.0 rating, the highest on the pitch, 5 massive saves, 2 high claim under intense pressure, and 1 penalty save in the shootout. He kept us alive when everything else was falling apart. The entire defense was top. When you look at the road to this semi-final, 3 perfect wins in the group stage, 4-0 demolition of Mozambique, and a dominant 2-0 win over Algeria. We have to realize that this team is special. We scored 14 goals, kept clean sheets when it mattered. We were not outplayed. Morocco didn't break us. We were outmaneuvered by the environment, stifled by a bit too much caution, and let down by the luck of the draw in the shootouts. But the talent is there, and the unity is there. And this brings me to the final word of what really happened in Rabat. If I'm being honest with you and myself, that 0-0 draw was a massive triumph of Nigerian win, but a total failure of Nigerian ambition. Think about it. We have the best squad on the continent, yet we allowed Morocco to detect the rhythm for 120 minutes. We went over an hour without even testing their goalkeeper. By doing that, we voluntarily placed our feet in the hand of a penalty lottery, and the referee, who clearly had a soft spot for the home team. The lesson for the NFF and the technical crew is clear. Never again. We cannot sacrifice our firepower at the altar of playing it safe. You don't bench your identity when you have the most feared striker in Africa. The 2025 tournament proved we have the best player in Africa. Rabat just proved we still need the tactical courage to match that talent. So as we look towards the third place against Egypt, we can't just go through the motion. We have to use it. The officiating trap, the midfield fragility, the tactical handbrake. This can't just be excuses we make today. They have to be blueprints of how we improve. And with that said, that's the end of the video, my friends. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. You'll be